Hello students, today we'll be discussing about chemical reactions. Okay, in the last class we had studied about the transformation of substances and how the separation or the purification of mixtures can be done. Okay, so today we'll be dealing with chemical reaction. Now by this word chemical reaction, what do we mean? Okay, as the name is showing that a reaction in which a chemical change is taking place is known as a chemical reaction. Okay, so it is the process which brings about any chemical change is known as a chemical reaction. Now, for example, for us to see a chemical reaction in our day-to-day life, we can take the example of turning of milk into curd. Okay, when you keep the milk at room temperature for some time with a little amount of curd in it, then it turns the whole milk into the curd. Or if the milk is not kept at appropriate temperature or it is kept at a higher temperature, then what happens? The milk, it will start losing its properties, that is it will become to taste sour. Okay, so that is, you can say, a type of a chemical change. Okay, any change by which the properties of the substance which was originally is not remaining any longer, then that is known as a chemical change. Okay, so for example we can take turning of milk into curd. More example of a chemical change can be cooking of rice or cooking of food. In that process also there is taking place any chemical change. So all those changes in which there is occurring the change of a substance, okay, from one form to another, then that is known as a chemical change. Okay, and those processes, all those processes which bring about this chemical change is known as a chemical reaction. Okay, these were the examples which I related with our day-to-day life. More example in chemical reactions we can take. We'll be discussing are the examples, okay, which will help us to understand more appropriate what is a chemical reaction. Now, for example, I have a test tube. Okay, in that I have some amount of HCl. Okay, so this you can say it is HCl, just dilute. Okay, now if I add some zinc pieces in it, these are the zinc pieces which I have added to the HCl. What I will notice that after some time what is happening is there is formation of another substance, that is zinc chloride. Okay, and here a gas is evolved and that gas is hydrogen gas. This can be detected by bringing a burning stick near this gas. It will burn with a pop sound and this will show that there is a liberation of hydrogen gas. Okay, so this is how we can show a chemical reaction. Okay, when the substance originally, when reacted with each other, they do not remain as such, they produce a new substance and this is a chemical reaction. Okay, more example we can see. This is example 1 and the second example I am taking is heating of sugar. This we can even do at our home. Okay, if some amount of sugar is taken in the test tube and now I heat this sugar, I will notice some change that after heating, okay, here I will see that there is a deposition of a black substance. Okay, and this black substance is carbon. Here I am drawing it with another color so as to indicate the difference. Carbon, this is black in color. Here the sugar, originally it was white. On heating it changed into black color substance. Okay, and here there was liberation of H2O gas, that is water vapor or steam. In the form of steam, this H2O has been removed. Okay. Now we can see here basically what I wanted to explain to you, that simple, there is a change, okay, and that change is visualized by this example. You can visualize the change that there is happening of color change when the sugar is heated for a long time. Okay. So this is a chemical change which occurs, and the process involved is the chemical reaction. Now what are the properties of a chemical reaction? How we will say that there is a chemical reaction occurring. Okay. So for that we'll see the properties of chemical reaction. The first property is that the substance undergoing the change is known as the reactant. Okay. As in the above example, we can see in example 1, zinc and HCl. These are the reactants because they are the substance which react before any change is occurring, and these substance, they are undergoing the change, and so they are known as the reactants. Okay. In the example 2 we can see sugar. Okay, it is the reactant because sugar is undergoing the chemical change. The next property is the substance produced. Now here the substance which is produced is said to be the product. After a chemical change, the new substance which is produced is known as the product. Okay. Now in example 1 we can see that the new products which are formed after the chemical reaction are ZnCl2, that is zinc chloride, and hydrogen gas. So these are the products in the first example. In the second example, carbon, okay, the black mass, the black residue which is left is carbon, okay, and steam which is liberated is the product. Okay. So this we can see by a simple representation that a chemical change involves a reactant and product. So the reactants are transformed into products. Okay. Now the reactant can be one or more, and the products produced can be one or more. So this is the basic property of a chemical reaction. Now the next property is that as new substance is formed, so what is actually happening during a chemical reaction is that the bonds in the reactants are broken and new bonds are formed, okay, between the elements to form the product. So we can say that the chemical reaction, it involves breaking and making of bonds. It means that bonds of reactants are broken and new bonds are formed to make the product. Okay, for example, in the above examples which I have dealt, here we can see the bond between zinc is there, the zinc pieces are there. Here there is a bond between hydrogen and chlorine in the HCl molecule. Okay, now here this bond is broken between hydrogen and chlorine, and new bond is formed between zinc and chloride. Okay, and hydrogen gas is liberated. So here we can see there is breaking of the hydrogen and chlorine bond, and there is formation of bond between zinc and chlorine and between hydrogen and hydrogen atoms. Okay, so this is how we can show that there is breaking of bonds in the reactant substance, and there is making of new bonds, and there is formation of the product. Similarly, here in the second example we can see that sugar, okay, sugar C12 H22O11. Okay, this is the molecular formula for sugar. Here we can see that what is happening after heating is the hydrogen and oxygen from this sugar molecule, these atoms, the bonds are broken. Okay, carbon hydrogen and carbon oxygen bonds are broken and carbon is left behind, and new bonds are formed between hydrogen and oxygen, and water is the product which is being formed. Okay, here water is formed in the form of gas, that is, you can say, the steam. Okay, so we can see here also there is making of new bonds in the water vapor or steam. Okay, that is, between hydrogen and oxygen there is formation of new bonds. The next property of a chemical reaction is that products of reaction are new substances which have new names and new chemical formula. Okay, so by the above examples we can easily illustrate this. Okay, product of a chemical reaction are new substances which have new names and new chemical formula. Okay, this we can easily understand. Now, reactant in the first example are zinc and HCl, and the product formed are zinc chloride and hydrogen gas. Here zinc is having the symbol Zn. This is resembling zinc, and HCl is for hydrogen. HCl is for hydrochloric acid. Okay, dilute. Now the products which are formed are zinc chloride and hydrogen gas. So we can see that there are new products formed. Okay, and these products are having different name than that of the reactant. Okay, and they are having new chemical formula. Okay, new chemical formula here, and this is the new name of the product. So that we can see that after reaction, okay, the new products which are formed have different name than that of the reactant. Similar in the second example, we can take C12H22O11. This is the molecular formula for sugar, and the product which is formed is carbon, which is having the symbol C, and there is formation of steam, H2O, okay, in the form of gas. So I have written here in the bracket G. So this is, so here we can see the difference in the name and the chemical formula of the product and reactant. Now the next property of a chemical reaction is that the chemical reaction, they are generally very difficult or nearly impossible to reverse. Okay, it is not applicable for all chemical reaction, but some chemical reactions are very difficult to reverse, or generally you can say they are impossible to reverse. This is the fifth property. This can also be explained by the above examples. In example 1, okay, the reverse of the reaction cannot happen. That is, zinc chloride ZnCl2 and hydrogen gas cannot react to form zinc and HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. Okay. So the reverse of this reaction is not possible. So we can say that some reactions, they are generally impossible to reverse. Okay. Similarly, in the second example, we can see that the carbon, which is the product in originally, if it reacts with steam, okay, or water vapor, it will not form sugar. Okay. So we can say that it is very difficult or it is nearly impossible for a chemical reaction to be reversed. Okay, these are some examples in which we can see that the chemical reaction is not being able to be reversed. They cannot be reversed. But there are some reactions which can be reversed. Okay, that we will see. For example, water can be decomposed by passing electricity into hydrogen and oxygen gas. Okay, and the reverse can also happen. Hydrogen and oxygen can also combine to form water. Okay, so sometimes there is possibility that the chemical reaction that is undergoing, it can also be reversed. Now the next property which we are going to discuss is that the properties of the product are entirely different from that of the reactant. Okay, properties of product are different from that of the reactant. For example, in the above case, we can see we are having sugar, okay, which is white in color and which dissolves in water easily. Okay, you can dissolve sugar in water, but the product which we are obtaining, that is carbon. Okay, it cannot be dissolved in water. You cannot dissolve carbon in water. So this is the basic property which I can tell that there is a difference in their properties. Similarly, here we can see the properties such as the state is differing. Here HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, it is a solution. Okay, you can say it is a dilute solution. But here hydrogen H2 is a gas. Okay, here zinc, these are solid pieces, but here ZnCl2 is again an aqueous solution. So you can see the difference in their properties, how they appear. Okay, and we will be studying more about this in detail in the characteristics of the chemical reaction. The next property, that is energy is required for a chemical change. For example, there are certain chemical reactions in which very less amount of energy is required and certain chemical reactions in very large amount of energy is required. Okay. For example, for converting sugar into carbon, you have to heat it, you have to provide heat. So this energy, it can be either in the form of heat, light or electricity. So some reactions, they might take place in presence of heat, some might require electricity, like that. So it depends upon the type of chemical reaction which we are carrying, and according to that the energy requirement is full. This energy can be less or more, but initially there is requirement of some amount of. So this we have completed about the properties of the chemical reaction.